I got to say at least.
Yeah, bro, I'm not for you.
Stop me, bro. McCree, you shoot what you do. You shoot what you do. Grab his arm. You're about to get coached. Stop reaching. Okay, bro. Okay. Can I put my pants up?
Stop. Let's go.
McCree, on the ground. Do it now.
Hey, go high and go low. Go low.
Someone go low.
Hey guys, wow. It's still dark when you hear the rattle on the front door. Not the gentle kind, the kind that says someone isn't just knocking, they're entering. You sit up, a blue light floods through the curtains. There's no time to think, just motion. Heavy boots on tile, radio squawking, ice, stay where you are. Your kid's room is just down the hall, but they're already there. They yank a man out from under a quilt. His wife screams. The baby starts crying. You're not sure if it's your house or the neighbors because this scene is playing out on 243 doorsteps across the Denver metro. It's 4:37 a.m. on a Tuesday. The operation has a name, Secure Streets. What you're watching is something else entirely. This wasn't supposed to happen. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Post your location and the local time down below. I want to know when and where you're hearing this story. And let's go on the journey of today's story together. You trudge through the cold silence left behind. Front doors hang ajar, pink slippers on the porch, sippy cup tipped over in a car seat. One house has a single light still on a teenage girl staring out the window, clutching a leash. The dog won't stop barking. From the official ICE press release, 243 criminal aliens, gang members, and public safety threats detained in coordinated sweep. But at sunrise, all people see are empty school desks, turned off phones, a minivan still running in a Walgreens parking lot. And here's the kicker. ICE used a real-time license plate tracking program this time, scraping data from commercial cameras and even toll booths. One car flagged at 3:17 a.m. The driver was a nurse, 17 years in pediatrics, driving home from a double shift. She never made it home. You walk past the coffee shop on Colfax the next morning, and the sign reads, closed, staff emergency. The owner's son, Mateo, made cortados and pulled espresso shots 5 days a week. Now he's sitting in a processing center with a number scribbled in Sharpie on his forearm. The sign outside doesn't explain that. It just says emergency. The operation was officially labeled Secure Streets. ICE claimed it was designed to remove criminal aliens and public threats. That's how they framed it during a midday press conference. Rows of officers behind a podium, flanked by massive posters of gang insignias and confiscated firearms. But when Denver Police Chief Ron Thomas was pressed by local reporters, he paused. We weren't involved, he said plainly. In fact, most local departments weren't even informed. You dig deeper. What you find is a trail of memos obtained by the Marshall Project that outline targets not based on any criminal history, but administrative infractions, many over a decade old. One memo lists an 18-year-old with multiple school truancies as a flight risk. He was arrested while walking his dog. At the same time, ICE's own database flagged 41 individuals as possible non-priority, but included them in sweeps anyway. Their stated reason? Associative zip code proximity. Translation, wrong neighborhood, wrong time. Then there's the language game. In the ICE press release, the word criminal appears 11 times. The word conviction, just once. You start to realize this isn't law enforcement, it's branding. And in the middle of it all, an ICE contractor was caught using a personal drone to scout parking lots outside a Denver food pantry. The footage leaked onto Telegram, where far-right channels started labeling volunteers illegals in disguise. When ICE was asked to comment, they claimed it was unauthorized and under investigation. The drone footage? Still online. Over 93,000 views. No one was charged, but the damage is permanent. You're standing at the gate of Little Sunshine Daycare when it happens. A silver SUV pulls up fast, no markings. Two men get out, jackets zipped up to their chins. They call out, Jorge Morales? A tall man with a Paw Patrol lunchbox turns around. That's him. He doesn't run. He nods. See? Then he bends down, kisses his 3-year-old on the forehead, and hands the lunchbox to the daycare assistant. The little girl starts to cry. Jorge is a janitor at a middle school. He's lived in Aurora for 14 years. No criminal record, one speeding ticket from 2011. He coached Pee Wee soccer, helped paint the church nursery, but his visa expired during the pandemic backlog, and the renewal process stalled, then flagged. When track data recently revealed that ICE often targets expired visa holders in these large sweeps, Jorge's story was already a statistic. You check his name against ICE's public statement, known associate of criminal activity. That's it, no further detail. But here's the story the system didn't print. Jorge's brother-in-law was arrested in 2019 for a stolen motorcycle charge. ICE agents noted the connection. That's all it took. You speak to his wife, Laura. She's trembling but steady. They took him in front of her. That was her whole world. Later that week, a daycare staff member posts a photo online. Crayon art, 5 lines of shaky letters. I miss Daddy. It goes viral. One ICE agent comments anonymously, collateral damage. The post is deleted within hours. Jorge was taken to Aurora Contract Detention Facility, run by Geo Group, a for-profit corporation. According to a 2025 report by the ACLU, the facility has been cited 6 times for human rights violations in just the past year, most recently for refusing asthma medication to detainees without a U.S.-issued prescription. Jorge has asthma and still no charges, just a quiet man who dropped off his daughter and never made it home. You sit at your laptop, eyes glued to a track database. The numbers feel colder than the stories, but somehow more damning. Of the 243 people taken in Denver, 129 had no criminal convictions. That's more than half. Another 38 were picked up for pending charges: shoplifting, driving without insurance, traffic warrants, none of which had led to a trial, let alone a conviction. The term ICE keeps using, public safety threats. But there's no legal definition. That's the trick. It lets them decide who's dangerous, even if a judge hasn't. And when you dig into the court dockets, many of those arrested had upcoming hearings with immigration judges, meaning they were actively complying with the system. Some had voluntary departure requests under review. One man was on day 28 of a 30-day reprieve. They took him anyway. You scroll through cases. A grandmother with arthritis detained for a misdemeanor from 1996. A construction foreman arrested on site, his hard hat left in the gravel. A single mom who had just renewed her DACA paperwork pending approval. All arrested under administrative violation rules, which bypass normal due process. Then there's the ICE handbook, updated this year. A clause now allows proactive removals for individuals who pose potential civil disruption due to their online associations. That's not a joke. One arrest report included screenshots of someone attending a Zoom town hall on housing rights. What does that even mean? Meanwhile, ICE quietly discontinued the sensitive locations policy in parts of Colorado, allowing arrests at schools, clinics, and places of worship. They never announced it publicly, but the ACLU confirmed it through FOIA requests. That's why 4 people were taken from outside a Denver methadone clinic on July 19th. No warning, just handcuffs. And when local reporters asked if ICE believed they'd made mistakes in their sweep, a spokesperson answered with 3 words: all operations lawful. You remember Jorge's daughter. You remember that daycare art. Lawful doesn't mean just. You sit in a crowded church basement in Aurora, fold-out chairs, a pot of coffee brewed 4 hours ago. The sign taped to the door reads, "Know your rights." Tonight's speaker is a retired ICE agent, Jorge Linares. Gray hair, wide shoulders, trembling hands. He's seen too much. The mission used to be about violent crime, he says. Now it's about optics. Someone raises their hand. But they're criminals, right? The room goes quiet. Jorge nods, slow. Define criminal, he replies. Because now overstaying your visa is criminal. Working 2 jobs with fake papers? Criminal. Calling an ambulance for your cousin during a panic attack and giving your name at the scene? Criminal. That word criminal is elastic. ICE uses it like a hammer, but in courtrooms, it's a scalpel. Even immigration judges have pushed back. One Colorado judge refused to sign an expedited removal order, calling the justification grossly insufficient. ICE deported the man anyway. The judge had no power to stop it. You switch on C-SPAN later that night. A Senate hearing. An ICE official testifies that redefining removal priorities is necessary due to resource strain. A senator responds, "Your new guidelines put community workers and teenagers on the same list as drug traffickers. How is that justifiable?" The ICE rep deflects. Our job isn't to judge, it's to enforce. Then you look at ICE's social media page. A Facebook post shows officers in tactical vests standing in front of a graffiti wall. The caption reads, "Another threat removed, stay safe Denver." Comments range from support to horror. One reply, "That's my cousin? He built roofs? That's the threat?" But this isn't just a left-right debate. Even libertarian think tanks have begun sounding alarms. The Cato Institute recently published a piece arguing that ICE's expanded definitions threaten civil liberties because once the system decides someone's disposable, it doesn't stop to ask why. So here's the question. If the same laws that label a trafficker also label a janitor, is the system working, or has it stopped caring? You return to the block where Jorge lived, and it feels different now. The silence is thicker, like something sacred was stripped away overnight. His neighbor Blanca stands in her garden with a hose running over her shoes. She hasn't touched the tomatoes in 2 days. "He mowed our lawn every summer," she says. "Even after my husband passed, who's going to tell my grandson where he went?" Inside the local Catholic church, 3 pews are empty this Sunday. Not because the faithful stayed home, but because the faithful were taken. The priest reads aloud from Matthew, but the echo that bounces back is loss. He used to have altar boys. Now he has photographs. And then there's the preschool down the street. 5 students haven't returned. One teacher, Miss Carla, now volunteers on evenings to deliver food to families too afraid to answer their doorbells. She shows you a notebook where she's been logging dates, addresses, and which kids need milk. Some of them are just gone, she whispers. Economically, the impact is real. According to local reports, 5 small businesses closed within a week of the raid. A mechanic shop, 2 food carts, a cleaning service, and a daycare. Not because they were targeted, but because their workers were the ones taken. A single ICE sweep, 243 arrests shut down livelihoods for hundreds. Even the hospital felt it. One night, Nurse Maria never showed up for her shift. The ER ran short. 2 patients waited hours longer for care. She hadn't done anything wrong. Her DACA renewal was in process, but her phone pinged near a known associate, and that was enough. You see it on every street now. A neighborhood that flinches at sirens. A grocery clerk scanning oranges slower, eyes on the door. Community centers doubling as counseling hubs. Teachers trying to explain sudden absences to crying children. Deportation isn't abstract anymore. It's the missing chair, the silence in the hallway, the uneaten sandwich in a school cubby, and still, ICE calls it a success. You walk into a barbershop on Federal Boulevard. No appointments, just walk-ins. A sign on the mirror says, "No ICE talk. We cut hair, not people." The barber Ray nods at you. "We used to joke about raids," he says. "Now nobody laughs." You sit in the chair and listen. Every cut, every snip, the same underlying beat fear. It lives in the pauses between conversations, the hesitations before saying a name, the glances toward the window when a white SUV pulls into the lot. Ray tells you he's stopped using names on appointments, just initials. That way, he shrugs, if they come asking, I got nothing. The moral question begins to surface, not as politics, but as proximity. People around you who once shrugged off immigration news now whisper, "Did you see who they took?" Your friend's coworker, your child's classmate, your Uber driver last Tuesday. It's no longer a headline. It's someone you borrowed a cup of sugar from. And the complicity, that's what stings most. Remember the drone footage from the food pantry? Some viewers recognized their own cars in the background and still said nothing. They kept driving. One woman even commented, "Glad it wasn't me." That's what fear does. It teaches you that safety is silence, but silence becomes consent. And soon you find yourself turning up the TV volume when you hear screaming outside. Not because you don't care, but because you don't know how to stop it. A college student you meet at a vigil says it best. You don't have to wear a badge to enforce a system. All you have to do is stay quiet. That hits hard. Later that night, you see a flyer taped to a lamppost, black letters on a red background. Who will speak for them? The faces are blank silhouettes. Below it, a line in Sharpie, "We still can." This isn't about immigration anymore. It's about who we choose to be when no one's watching. When the agents knock next door and we pretend we didn't hear. You're standing in front of your door now, just like they did. It's early morning. The air still got that cold snap before sunrise. You glance down the street. You know which houses are quiet now, too quiet. You wonder if those doors will ever open again. And the question hangs there. If ICE came for you tomorrow, who would speak for you? The truth is, most of us don't think it'll happen to us. That's how the system survives. It feeds on distance, emotional, legal, geographic. But that distance shrinks fast when your neighbor disappears, or when the kid next to your child in school stops showing up, or when you realize your Uber driver doesn't speak anymore after they see a police car. The ethics here are layered. On paper, law is law. But in practice, you're watching a system where the paperwork doesn't match the punishment, where the word illegal gets thrown around like a slur, and entire lives get dismantled without a courtroom, without a jury, without mercy. You rewind to Jorge at the daycare, to Blanca in her garden, to the children who never got their bedtime stories, and the barber who doesn't say names anymore. These are the people this country forgets until someone makes us remember that someone is you. This story isn't finished. ICE will sweep again. The headlines will change, the numbers will climb. But every person you tell, every video you share, every time you push back on they're just enforcing the law, you widen the lens. You don't need to be a lawyer. You don't need to speak Spanish. You just need to speak up. Because silence doesn't just protect the system, it becomes the system. So tell this story. Share this video. Ask yourself, what if the person they took was your brother, your friend, your child's coach? Would you still call it lawful? Would you still stay quiet? You take one last look down the street. The sun is rising now, gentle and gold. It touches the rooftops of empty houses, the front yards with untied shoes and bikes that won't be ridden today. You hear birds. It's quiet, but not the safe kind. It's the quiet after the storm. Let that quiet settle. Breathe. What's left behind after an ICE raid isn't just trauma, it's questions. Why did it happen like that? Why didn't more people speak up? And most haunting of all, could it have been stopped? You think about Jorge, about the coffee shop boy who brewed cortados, the janitor, the nurse, the toddler's crayon letter. Not political talking points, just people. People who loved, worked, paid taxes, waited in lines, and disappeared with no warning. And maybe now you see the deeper truth. Justice isn't a passive condition. It's an action, a choice, a muscle you have to flex, even when it shakes, especially when it shakes. If this story moved you, let it move you towards something. Talk to your neighbors. Learn names. Share this video with someone who still believes it's just enforcing the law. Push back against language that dehumanizes. Hold institutions accountable. Follow the data. Follow the stories. And when another name surfaces in the headlines, remember Jorge. Remember the little girl's drawing. Because this isn't a news cycle. It's a test. And the world is watching how we answer it.